Thank you. Thank you for reminding me that. So fine. Now, so yesterday we were discussing from the later part of 7th chapter, and we just began the 8th chapter. So in one sense, in the 7th chapter, Lord Krishna kind of briefly introduces who are all the people that are there in the entire world and what kind of process they follow. There are some people who are grossly atheistic and they don't want to surrender to Supreme Lord. They are categorized into 4 groups: Moda, Naradama, Maya, Aparta Jnana, Asurim Bhava Mashrita. So they are into 4 categories, and little better than them are those who are worshippers of impersonal form of the Supreme Lord. Avyaktam Vyaktim Mannate Mam Abuddhaya. They are called Abuddhaya, unintelligent. And little better than them are the Devata worshippers, Alpa Buddhaya. MM Vapi, not MM Vapi. It is verse number 20. Yo yo yam yam tanun bhaktya shraddhaya archutam ichyati tasya tasya chalam kama steste ritagnyana prapadyante anya devata. Being overwhelmed by the material desires, they worship the devatas, thinking that the devatas only fulfill their desires quickly so that they can become happy. So they are called by Lord Krishna as Alpa Buddhaya, less intelligent. And better than them are those who are following karma, jnana, and Ashtanga Yoga, who were discussed in the previous 6 chapters. Chapter 2 to chapter 6, more elaborately, Lord Krishna talks about the Sakama Karmis, Nishkama Karmis, Jnana Yogis, and Ashtanga Yogis. And better than them are devotees, which Lord Krishna introduces in the verse number 16th. The 4 kinds of Sukritinas, the 4 kinds of pious people who actually take shelter of Supreme Lord, even though they may have some desires to gain. Chaturvida Bhajanti Mam Jana Sukritin Arjuna Artho Artharthi Jignasu Jnanicha Bharatarshava. These 4 kinds of people actually worship the Supreme Lord. These are Artho, Artharthi, and Jignasu. These 3 are called Karma Mishra Bhaktas. They are devotees, but they have some tendencies of that of karmis who want to fulfill their desires. And Jnani is a Jnana Mishra Bhakta. He is a devotee, but he has the tendency of a Jnani. Jnani always want to know what is what. They want to know what is this material world, what is the spiritual world, etc. etc. Such kind of understanding. The normal Jnani only want to know how the Atma is different from the material world and want to realize Atma and want to attain Sayujya Mukti. But this Jnani, who is described in the 7th chapter, is a devotee but has the tendency of Jnani. He always want to know what is material world and what is spiritual world. Who is Jiva and who is the Supreme Lord. That kind of knowledge he wants to have. So then, Lord Krishna also talks about one more person who takes shelter of yoga in order to attain liberation. He is called as Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Yoga Mishra Bhakta. He is explained in the verse number 29 at the end of the chapter. Jara Marana Mokshaya Ma Mashritte Yatantite. They take shelter of me and they worship me with a desire to get rid of the cycle of birth and death. They are called Yoga Mishra Bhaktas because they also want to attain liberation by the process of bhakti. They are also called Sakama Bhaktas, and a Jnana Mishra Bhakta is called Nishkama Bhakta. But superior to all these variety of people is a pure devotee, an Ananya Bhakta, whose bhakti has no trace of karma, jnana, yoga, or material desires or atheism. So this is how the people who are living in the entire world are grouped into different divisions. The lowest among all is atheists, the 4 kinds of Dushritana. Little better than them are the worshippers of impersonal form. who are called Abudaya. Little better than them are the worshippers of Devatas, who are called Alpabuddhaya, less intelligent. And little better than them are the followers of Sakama Karma, and then the followers of Nishkama Karma, Jnana, and Ashtanga Yogas, who are described in the previous chapters. And little better than them are Karma Mishra Bhaktas, little better than them are Yoga Mishra Bhaktas, little better than them are Jnana Mishra Bhaktas, who are actually Nishkama Bhaktas. And the best people in the entire world are Ananya Bhaktas, or Akinchana Bhaktas, whom Lord Krishna introduces in 7.1 and talks about their goal in 7.3. And in the 8th chapter, keeping away the atheists and the impersonalists and all the remaining people, starting from Sakama Karmis all the way up to Uttama Bhaktas, what kind of destination they will get. That is what is described in the 8th chapter. 8th chapter mainly talks about the destination obtained by Sakama Karmis, Nishkama Karma Yogis, Jnana Yogis, Ashtanga Yogis, and Sakama Bhaktas, Moksha Kama Bhaktas, Nishkama Jnana Mishra Bhaktas, and Ananya Bhaktas. What kind of destiny will be obtained by all these people and how they obtain their destiny after death. That is being described in this chapter. In English, Prabhupada entitled this chapter as Attain the Supreme. How different people attain the Supreme, that is the essence of this chapter. But in Sanskrit, this chapter name is Akshara Brahma Parama Yoga. Akshara means eternal, Brahma means transcendence, Parama means Param Brahma. It is not ordinary Brahma. Param Brahma for some Jnanis and Yogis, it could be Brahman. But for devotees, it is the Lord of Vaikuntha. And for Ananya Bhaktas, it will be Lord Krishna, Lord Ram, and Lord Narasimha. So this is the overall essence of the first 8 chapters of Bhagavad Gita as per my little understanding. So now we'll go ahead with our 8th chapter. So first I will just recap the 3rd and 4th verses. Then we'll take some questions if anyone has from yesterday's discussion and current summary. Then we'll start with 5th chapter, 5th verse. So being asked, the Lord replies to the 7 questions asked by Arjuna. So Arjuna has 7 questions. What is Brahman? What is Adhyatma? What is Karma? What is Adibhuta? What is Adideva? What is Adiyajna? And what is how one can remember you at the time of death? These are the 7 questions asked by Arjuna. Lord Krishna answers first 6 questions in verse number 3 and 4. And the 7th question is answered in the rest of the chapter. The rest of the chapter is nothing but the answer to the 7th question. So in the 3rd verse, so Lord Krishna is answering. Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavo Adhyatma Uchyate Bhuta Bhavodbhava Karo Visarga Karma Samvita. So Arjuna asks, what is that Brahman? Is it the conscious Paramatma or the conscious Jivatma? Lord Krishna says, the Jivatma which does not perish, which is distinct from the body, is called Brahman. So Lord Krishna directly says Jivatma is Brahman. Without any doubt, he clarifies the subject matter very easily. And then the second question Arjuna asks is, what is Adhyatma? What is it that superintends the body? Adi Atma. Who is the Adhikari of the body? So like that is the question. Is it the group of senses? The senses are the Adhikari of the body? Or the subtle elements, Man, Buddhi, Hankara, Chetana are the Adhikari of the body? So Lord says, I refer to Sabhava Adhyatma Muchate. That is the answer given by Lord. I refer to the Sabhava as the Adhyatma. According to Lord, Sabhava is Adhyatma. Our independent nature governs our life activities. says that Swabhava is that substance, Bhava means Padartha, Swabhava is that substance that is intimately connected to the Jiva. Swa, it is very closely connected to the personality. What is that closely connected to personality? The impressions held in the subtle elements which accompany the Jiva birth after birth, and they govern the activities of the body. Swabhava refers to the past impressions which will appear in the form of our current personality, our current behavior, our current belief system. So this is called Swabhava, which governs the activities of the body. And then Arjuna asks to the question, what is karma? Does it refers to ordinary day-to-day activities? Whatever activities we perform day in, day out, that is called karma? Are actions prescribed in the Vedic literature? Is it karma means the activities of Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra, Kshatriya, and Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi as prescribed by the Vedic literature? Is that karma? So Lord Krishna gives a different understanding. Karma is neither the day-to-day activities, karma is neither the prescribed duties. It is much more than that, which also includes the day-to-day activities and also prescribed activities. So that is mentioned by Lord Krishna as the creative force which rise to the bodies of men and others. Others includes the animals, the plants, and the devatas. By the combination of the subtle elements with the gross elements is called karma. Karma is basically attainment of different bodies as a result of one's past activities in one's current life is called karma. The attainment of bodies depends upon the combination of various gross elements and subtle elements in different proportions. So that is the understanding. So Chandogya Upanishad gives a wonderful understanding. Here, if you take karma to be pious activities alone, which will take a person to heavenly planets, and when the piety is over, one comes back. So with that understanding, a cycle of Jiva, how one goes upward and comes downward, is explained here. So Chandogya Upanishad chapter 5 describes that there are 5 types of offerings and there are 5 types of fires. One offering is made into one kind of fire, by which one gets a particular kind of results. The 5 kinds of offerings are faith, the god of the moon, the rain, the food, and semen. They are offered into 5 kinds of fire, which are the fire of heaven, the fire of the god of rain, the fire of earth, the fire of man, and the fire of woman. So this is briefly mentioned. So it means by the performance of Jyotishtoma sacrifice, one goes to Swarga. One goes to Swarga and enjoys in a Devata body. When the piety is over, with the remnants of piety, one comes down to earth and gets a human body. So this is described in Chandogya Upanishad as a result of karma. How it happens, a brief understanding is presented here. So it is that when a person is born in this world, by studying the Vedas, one develops faith that by the performance of so-called sacrifices such as Agnishtoma sacrifice or Chandrayana Vrata, etc., one will go to heaven and enjoy there. Thus, in one's whole lifetime, one continues to perform so many yajnas with a desire to go to heaven after the death. So when one offers, during the performance of yajna, one offers all the ingredients available with him for devatas. Idam Indraya Swaha, Idam Namama, Idam Chandraya Swaha, Idam Nama, Idam Varunaya Swaha, Idam Namama, Idam Surya Swaha, Idam Nama, Idam, like that. In the name of different devatas, he offers so many oblations which are made up of earth, water, fire, and ether. All the variety of grains, water, till, etc. All these things are offered. So all these devatas who have accepted so many oblations throughout the life, when the person dies, they will offer this person along with his punya, whatever punya he accumulated throughout one's life, The devatas who accepted the oblation throughout his life, they offer that person along with his punya to the fire of heaven. Here heaven is like the fire. When that jiva along with his punya is offered to the fire of heaven, he will go to heaven. In the heaven, he will get a devata body and he will enjoy there unlimitedly as per the punya. When the punya, maximum amount of punya is over, then the devatas of the moon, basically punya here, Sarga means moon planet. People go to moon planet, they enjoy their somarasa, etc. Then the devatas in the moon planet, they will offer this person who is called as the enjoyer of the moon, had the oblation. They will offer this person with the remaining piety into the fire of Parjanya or into the fire of clouds. Parjanya is basically the lord of rain and is also there in the form of clouds. And here clouds is the fire. They will offer into the Yajna with fire, that is the clouds, this person. So this person takes shelter of clouds. He enters into clouds. Eventually, the clouds offer him in the form of rain. Basically, he has taken shelter of clouds. The clouds will transform into rain eventually. The rains will be the oblations into the fire of earth. Now earth will act like the Yajna. So into the fire of earth, they will offer him along with the rain. Then in the earth, that person goes along with the water into the earth and then enters through the roots of a tree, then enters into the grains. Then the earth, in the form of grains, the grains are oblations offered by the earth and plants to the fire of man. The food grains, which are an outcome of the earth, in which the soul has taken shelter, Mother Earth, who is the offerer of the oblations, offer the grains in the form of food to the man. So when man accepts that food is transformed into semen. Then this man offers the semen in the form of oblations into the fire of a woman. When the woman accepts that semen as the oblation, that semen transforms into the body of a man within the womb. Eventually, in due course of time, that man is born again as a small child. And that child, when eventually grows up, after studying the Vedas, he understands that he has to perform yajna. Then he performs yajna with faith on the Vedic descriptions, and then he goes to Swarga, and the same procedure comes down. So this is the process of karma. So here it is mentioned, the various actions that result in a material human body, the various Vedic sacrificial process, they are all called karma. The causes of such states, the states in these various positions, first as the human being, then enjoyer of the moon, then as rain, then as food grains, then as semen, then as the person. The consequences of actions, all these actions, enjoying on the heaven, taking shelter of the clouds becoming rain, taking shelter of earth becoming rains, and taking shelter of man becoming semen, and taking shelter of woman and becoming embryo and eventually the child. The residue from actions is called karma. All this entire sequence is called karma. Karma is not just the day-to-day activities. Karma is not just the prescribed activities of 4 varnas and 4 ashramas. It is also this cycle of changing from one species to other species. So this is called karma. And then in the next verse, Lord Krishna talks about the remaining 3. Arjuna asks, what is Adibhuta? Is it the results? Is it that rules the living entity within the body? Adibhuta. Here Bhuta refers to the Panchabhutas, which transform in the form of body. Is it the products of the elements, the gross body of the Jiva? Lord Krishna says, the gross material body, which transforms at every moment, is called Adibhuta, that which rules the living entity. The gross material body transforms at every moment. First it takes birth, it grows, gives byproducts, stays for some time, dwindles and destroys. So that gross body which goes through a continuous transformation is called Adibhuta, which governs the activities of a person. And then Arjuna asks, what is Adi Daiva? Is it meditation concerning the Devatas or the governing universal form, the personification of everything in the universe? So Lord Krishna says, Adi Daiva refers to the bodily form of the aggregate of matter, the universal form, that which rules over the existing Devatas. Adibhuta is our individual body. Adi Daiva is the universal body. Adibhuta governs individual soul. Adideva governs all the Devatas and all of us who are living in the entire universe. And the sixth one is, who is Adijagna? Does Indra or Vishnu own this Yajna? What is the nature of this ruler of Yajna? Lord Krishna says, Adiyajna is he who rules over the sacrifice. So he says that in one person's individual body, I alone am Adi Yajna. Since I inspire that person to worship through the form of Yajna, and also it is I who give the results of that worship. So for individual person, the Adi Yajna is Paramatma. For the entire universe, the Adi Yajna is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So this is Adi Yajna. So Lord Krishna says, in this verse, Lord Krishna says actually, Adi Yajno aham eva atra. It is me only. This Adi Yajna is me only. It is me only who is residing in each and every individual person as Paramatma. It is me only who resides in each and every universe as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. How does the Adi Yajna exist in the body? Residing at the regulator within the body, I inspire performance of sacrifice and other acts for individual person and as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu for the entire universe. Moreover, by service to my form, one attains the real meaning of these 7 words without difficulty. But out of the 7 words, the 2 are very important to be known. Other things are not that important. The 2 are Brahma, the first one, and Adi Yajna, the 6th one, are worthy of realizing. And others items are worthy of rejection. One should understand, and after understanding, one should reject them. Because karma is taken to Sarga and here and there, one should reject that. Adibhuta and Adidaiva, which are talking about the material body individually and the material body universally, they should be rejected. And Adhyatma are those impressions that are keeping us in the repeated cycle of birth and death. They should be rejected. So in that way, all these things should be rejected. So then this is the 7th question. How are you to be known at the time of death? The Lord speaks the results in 3 verses, 5 to 7. And in verse 8, he speaks the process. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nasti atra samshaya.
And whoever at the end of his life keeps his body remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt.
So Lord Krishna says, how he is supposed to be remembered? Antakalecha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. Smaran muktva kalevaram. At the time of giving up this body, the human body, one should remember me. Mam eva. One should remember me alone. Me in the form of Shyamasundara. Ya prayati samadbhavam. At that time, whoever remembers me, that Shyamasundara, sa madbhavam yati nasti atra samshaya. Without any doubt, they will attain my nature. They will attain that nature similar to my transcendental position. So this is the answer to the 7th one. Whoever remembers me at the time of death, they will attain my transcendental nature. This is Ajamil past time. I being known at the time of death, by knowledge in the form of remembrance, bestow the results. That is your attainment of my nature, Madbhavam. Madbhavam refers to he who remembers me attains a nature like mine with 8 qualities that Supreme Lord possesses. He becomes sinless, He becomes ageless, becomes deathless, becomes without grief, always happy, without hunger, without thirst, blissful, and his desires are instantly fulfilled. So these are the different qualities that are mentioned here in this verse. Madbhavam refers to possessing all these 8 qualities. Ya Atma Apahata Papma becomes sinless. Vijaro, ageless, without jara, janma mrityu jara vyadhi. Vi mrityur, without mrityu. Vi shoko, without shoka, without lamentation. Vi jigisto, without anger. Jigisto means anger. Vi jigisto and vi pipasa. Pipasa means thirst, without thirst. Satyakama. Satyakama means who always desires Satya, who always experiences Sachidananda, Anandamayo Abhyasa condition. Satya Sankalpa, whose Sankalpa is always becomes truth. So, Anveshitavya Sa Vijijnasa Jnasitavya. So, this person is called the knower of the Supreme Lord. The person when he attains perfection, attains this kind of state. So that is what is described here. This is the nature one attains by attaining perfection. So anyone has any question till now?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, in the last slok, in the 8.4, is it अगर हम जैसे मतलब आपने बोला कि who rules over देवता, अधिदेव, तो can it be Brahma? Can he be Brahma?
No,
who rules over devata?
No, Brahma is also a devata, na? There is someone who is ruling Brahma also.
Okay, मतलब ब्रह्मा जी को भी जो रूल करे वो पुरुष.
Because the ruling means Brahma was given the responsibility of the creator of the universe, and Brahma has given Satyaloka, and Brahma also given the responsibility of taking care of devatas, and that responsibility is given by the universal form, by keeping him in Satyaloka, by making him the head of the devatas. So it is the universal form which gives the responsibilities to different devatas or different services to different devatas.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, in this 8.5, Prabhupada is writing in purport that should chant Hare Krishna incessantly. Then we can have this this bhav, this antakale. So this incessantly means without interruption we can chant 24 hours.
That we'll discuss in the 6th verse. The meaning of the 5th verse is explained in the 6th verse. That's why I did not discuss all those things.
And Prabhuji, another question. Prabhuji, this whatever this 7th or 8th we have discussed, this Karma Mishra Bhakta, Jnana Mishra Bhakta, and the Yoga Mishra Bhakta. But we are the follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They are describing this pure bhakti. So what means how much we can learn from this? What are the necessary of the discussing this all the three, and how can you use this all these three in your pure bhakti?
See, Prabhuji, we may think that we are practicing pure bhakti. Actually, we are not practicing pure bhakti. We are still practicing Karma Mishra Bhakti and Jnana Mishra Bhakti only. Pure bhakti means that bhakti practiced by Goswamis.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
So that is a long way to come to that stage.
Okay.
So we are living in a society. So we need to help others also, and we need to understand what they are doing, what they need to do. So if you want to tell others, if you want to educate others, first we should be educated ourselves. What is what? So without being thoroughly educated, we cannot know who we are, we cannot know what we are practicing, and we cannot help others what they are supposed to do, and we cannot help others what they are doing also. Make them understand that what they are doing.
Okay.
So it is through Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is giving the proper understanding of what is what. But our Gaudiya Vaishnavas, our Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, they teach us pure bhakti, how to execute pure bhakti. Bhakti Rasam Sindhu and all other books written by Goswamis, they mainly teach us how to practice pure devotional service. But that can be practiced only by very rare people. Manushyanam sahasreshu kachit yata siddhaye. Yatatam api siddhanam kachin mam veti tatataha. Kachin. The second and third kachin practice Ananya Bhakti. So that is very rare and that is very high state. So prematurely we should not think that we are on that level. So from my little understanding, currently we are practicing Karma Mishra Bhakti. I mean, if we think that we are practicing Bhakti, then we will be in the category of Karma Mishra Bhakti, maybe to some extent, Thoda sa Jnana Mishra Bhakti. But otherwise, we have to individually analyze where we are.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Though we are practicing Karma Mishra Bhakti, like you said in 7.27 about the kleshas, avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, we are still in that level only. So unless those kleshas are overcome, we cannot be practicing bhakti.
No, not like that. We have to practice along with all those things. They are there as long as our body is there. As long as you are human body, all those 5 avaranas are there. You cannot remove them and then practice bhakti. Not like that. In order to eradicate the influence of those 5, we need to practice bhakti. Without practice, we cannot overcome them.
Those negative mental states, they are a disqualification for bhakti. That's what was said.
They need
and the qualification and the qualification for bhakti, how it has to be, it is clarified in the next verse. So we are in that process only yet.
Yes, we are still working on now. We are not yet become devotees. We are aspiring to become devotees.